She told me to pretend we were just friends at dinner. But when the bill came, her card failed in front of everyone, and that night I packed her life into boxes and walked away forever. For a moment I thought I misheard her, or maybe she was making some kind of awkward joke. But no, she meant every word. The woman I had lived with for almost 2 years, the woman I shared bills, dreams, and nights with, had just asked me to hide what we were. In that instant, surrounded by laughter, clinking glasses, and the buzz of people enjoying their evening, I felt something break inside me. A part of me that believed in us, a part of me that believed I mattered to her, simply shattered. I kept a smile on my face because that's what she expected. I nodded quietly and walked along with her toward the table where her friends waited. But inside I was burning. She didn't want me there as her boyfriend. She wanted me there as some prop, some placeholder that could be easily labeled just a friend. And I understood in that second that she had been counting on me not to make a scene. She knew I wouldn't confront her right there. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't even imagine, was that the real scene wouldn't happen in the restaurant that night. It would happen later, and when it did, she wouldn't be the star of that show. Emily, that was her name, had always been different from me. When we first met, I was grounded, practical, a man who believed in building things that last. I worked with my hands, solved problems, and found comfort in stability. She, on the other hand, lived for applause, for images, for the illusion of perfection. At first, I admired that. She was bold, fearless, and dazzling. I thought she brought color to my quiet world, and maybe I brought stability to hers. For a time, that balance seemed to work. But as months passed, her sparkle started to look like smoke. What once felt inspiring became exhausting. She wanted every moment filmed, every meal staged, every trip captured not for us but for her followers. Life with her slowly stopped being about living and became about performing. I tried to be supportive, even when she quit her job to pursue her influencer dreams. We made a deal. For 6 months I would cover rent and major bills, and she would use her savings for her career costs. I believed it was a reasonable risk, a temporary sacrifice for our future. But the risk didn't pay off. Instead of investments or growth, her money vanished into shopping sprees, luxury dinners, designer clothes, and endless props for her content. Meanwhile, I was breaking my back carrying the financial weight alone. It didn't feel like a partnership anymore. It felt like she was building a stage for herself and I was just the background piece keeping the lights on. That restaurant night was supposed to be fun. She had been excited for days, planning her outfit, practicing lines she wanted to drop into the conversation, even deciding which photos would look best online. I went along to support her, but the moment she told me to hide our relationship, I understood the truth. She was ashamed of me. Not because I did something wrong, but because I didn't fit into the picture-perfect world she wanted to sell. We reached the table. 4 of her friends, all dressed as if they were walking a red carpet instead of eating downtown, stood and greeted her with air kisses and high-pitched laughter. Emily introduced me coldly. "This is Mark, a friend of mine." A friend. 2 years together, and that was what I meant to her in front of them. Her friends barely looked at me. They were more interested in complimenting her dress and asking about her latest photo shoot. I sat quietly, ordered a drink, and watched. The whole evening was a show. They talked about vacations, handbags, and names I didn't know, like some endless soap opera. Emily laughed loudly, gesturing in ways that screamed for attention. I watched her shine for them, watched her smile for them, and realized she hadn't smiled like that for me in a very long time. Her friends gave me sideways glances too, silent judgments that I didn't belong. Emily felt it too, which was why she had demoted me from boyfriend to friend. Then came the twist of the night. The waiter brought the check. Emily, confident and dramatic, slid her black card onto the table as if she were making a grand gesture. She wanted to show her friends that she was independent, successful, in control. I sat back calmly, sipping my drink, watching quietly. But the waiter returned moments later, her card in hand, his voice quiet yet sharp enough for everyone to hear.
"I'm sorry, Mom."
"It's been declined." The table fell silent. The laughter vanished. The spotlight turned cold. Emily let out a nervous laugh. "That's impossible. Try again." But when the waiter tried again, it was the same result. Declined. Her friends shifted in their seats, whispering, some smirking. She tried 2 more cards. Declined. 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 I watched calmly as her carefully crafted image collapsed in real time. For months, I had been paying her bills, carrying her lifestyle, funding the illusion that she alone built it all. And now, right in front of her audience, the truth bled through. Finally, Emily looked at me, her eyes wide, her voice low and desperate. "Mark, could you?" The same woman who had introduced me as just a friend 15 minutes earlier now wanted me to step in as her savior. The irony was delicious. I didn't answer immediately. I let her squirm. I let her friends watch as she fumbled. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done to me countless times, reducing me, dismissing me, making me invisible. Finally, I pulled out my card, paid the bill without a word, and nodded to the waiter. No drama, no grand gesture, just quiet finality. But the damage was done. Her friends knew. She knew. And most importantly, I knew. The mask had slipped. And once you see behind it, you can't unsee it. The ride home was silent. She made excuses. The bank must have frozen her cards. It was some silly mistake. Nothing serious. I didn't argue. I didn't respond. I just drove while her words fell flat against the quiet hum of the car. But inside, I already knew what I was going to do. That dinner wasn't just a red flag. It was the last straw. I realized then that I wasn't her partner. I was a prop. And props, when they're not useful, get replaced. But this time, I wasn't going to wait for her to replace me. I was going to write the ending myself. The next morning, Emily acted as if nothing had happened. She walked around the kitchen wearing her silk robe, filming herself pouring imported coffee into a designer mug, and spreading avocado on toast as though she were broadcasting a cooking show to the world. Her voice was cheerful, her smile practiced, her movements polished for the camera. It was as if the humiliating scene at the restaurant the night before had been erased from existence, edited out of her life like an imperfect photo she refused to post. She never thanked me for covering the bill, never acknowledged the moment of panic when she had begged me to rescue her. To Emily, the whole thing was just a blip, something to be forgotten. But to me, it was carved deep into my memory. That whisper still echoed in my ears. "Don't tell them you're my boyfriend." I realized then that our relationship had turned into a script, one that she controlled entirely. I wasn't a partner. I was a supporting character. And supporting characters don't get to complain when their lines are cut or when their role is reduced. But I was done with that script. Quietly, without a word, I began writing my own ending. The first step was money. For months I had been covering rent, utilities, and all the practical expenses while she blew her savings on shopping sprees, designer props, and fancy brunches. I sat down that week, opened my accounts, and carefully severed every tie. I removed her as an authorized user, canceled the joint credit card that she rarely paid, and redirected all bills to my name alone. The safety net she had been floating on for so long vanished overnight, and she didn't even notice at first because she was too busy editing her latest video. The second step was space. Our apartment, once a shared home, had turned into her studio. Ring lights cluttered the living room. Clothing packages stacked up in the hallway. Backdrops taped against the walls. My belongings were squeezed into corners, forgotten, treated as background noise. Slowly, box by box, I reclaimed that space. I moved her makeup kits, piles of clothes, shoes, and endless props into the spare room. Only the bare essentials stayed in the main areas. For the first time in months, I could see the coffee table again, could rest my tools on the shelves, could breathe without feeling smothered by her performances. The third step was timing. I waited until she had a busy weekend planned, a brunch with her influencer friends followed by a sponsored photo shoot. She would be gone for hours, and that was all I needed. On that Saturday morning, she floated around the apartment, dressing in designer clothes she couldn't afford, throwing me a distracted smile. You'll be okay without me today, right? Don't get too bored. She laughed lightly as she adjusted her hair in the mirror, completely unaware that her whole world was about to change. The door closed behind her, and within minutes, a moving truck pulled up outside. I had already packed most of her things into boxes and labeled them with her name. The movers were fast, professional, and efficient. By the time Emily posted her first brunch selfie online, nearly all of her belongings were packed into that truck. I paid for a storage unit across town, paid the first month in advance, and locked it with a 4-digit code. Everything she had piled into our apartment for her career was now contained neatly inside a metal box. By evening, the transformation was complete. My apartment, looked like a home again. The ring lights were gone, the walls were clean, and my books and tools rested where they belonged. For the first time in over a year, I could sit at the table without feeling like a guest in my own life. The silence was peaceful instead of suffocating. I felt lighter, freer, and more certain than ever that I was doing the right thing. When Emily returned that night, she was glued to her phone, laughing at comments on her post. At first, she didn't notice anything had changed. But then her laughter stopped. Her eyes darted around the apartment, wide with confusion. "Where's my stuff?" she demanded, her voice sharp with panic. "In storage," I replied calmly, handing her a piece of paper with the address and unit number. "First month's paid." Her jaw dropped, and for the first time in a long time, she looked genuinely speechless. Then her words tumbled out in fragments. "You can't just Mark. What did you do? I need my studio. I need my things." I cut her off with a steady voice. "You don't need me, remember? But you don't have me anymore." Her face went pale. Her mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came out. She stood frozen, realizing the script she had written for us was falling apart, and I was no longer willing to play the role she assigned me. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I simply picked up the bag I had packed for myself, walked to the door, and left. Behind me, I heard her voice rise into pleading, then threats, then silence. But none of it mattered anymore. I was done. The following weeks were a liberation I had forgotten was possible. I rented a small cabin outside the city, surrounded by trees and quiet. I spent my days hiking, reading, and restoring old furniture I had neglected. There were no ring lights, no staged dinners, no fake smiles for strangers online. Just me, nature, and a peace I had almost forgotten existed. But Emily didn't disappear quietly. At first came the texts, dozens of them, swinging between anger, guilt, and desperate apologies. I ignored them. Then came the calls, her number flashing over and over until I finally blocked it. After that came the social media posts. She painted herself as a victim, crying about how I had betrayed her, abandoned her, left her with nothing. She wanted sympathy, wanted her followers to rally to her side. But people aren't blind. Word of what happened at the restaurant had already spread through her friend group. They knew how she had treated me. They knew the truth behind her image. Slowly, one by one, her followers began to drift away. Some unfollowed quietly. Others called her out publicly. The brands that once sent her free packages pulled back. Engagement on her posts dropped. The shiny empire she had tried so hard to build began to crumble without the foundation I had been providing all along. I didn't watch closely. I didn't need to. Friends told me bits and pieces, and that was enough. What had once been a spectacle was now just gossip, and eventually even that died down. Her perfect image had cracked, and there was no way to tape it back together. Months later, I saw her one last time. I was walking through the park on a crisp autumn afternoon, the leaves crunching beneath my boots, when I noticed a familiar figure sitting alone on a bench. Emily. She was staring at her phone, but unlike before, there was no glow, no sparkle, no audience. Just a woman scrolling through a fading world. When she looked up and saw me, our eyes met for a brief second. I expected anger or bitterness, but all I saw was emptiness. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. I nodded politely, gave her a small smile, and kept walking. That was the last time I ever saw her. My life now is different. Real. I rebuilt my home into a place that reflects who I am, not some stage for someone else's show. I reconnected with old friends who never cared about my clothes or my social media presence. I started traveling for myself. Not for pictures, not for validation, but for the experience. Every morning I wake up thankful that I had the strength to walk away that night after the restaurant. Emily taught me a lesson, though not the one she intended. She believed life was about appearances, about curating a perfect image for strangers. She thought love was another accessory to arrange for the right angle. But real life isn't about looking perfect. It's about feeling real. And real love isn't a prop. It's a foundation. At that restaurant, when she laughed and told me to pretend I was just a friend, she believed she was protecting her image. But in that one sentence, she revealed the truth. The image meant more to her than the man standing beside her. That was the night I finally understood. And that was the night I decided to walk away forever. Like and subscribe if you believe real relationships are built on respect, not just appearances.